welcome to Mornings with Mel. I'm Mel, and this is...
My name is Kevin.
And Brittany.
With TLHI Contracting.
So they're local home builders here, and they do custom homes throughout Onslow County. So what's your approach to custom home building? Like, why is it different, you think, than other builders around here?
So originally when we started as a general contractor, and prior to that, we were involved heavily with remodels and home repairs. And a large portion of that was working with clients one-on-one. A lot of the remodels we would do, we were working in people's houses. So as we've transitioned into new construction and custom home building, we do put a huge emphasis on the customer relation. Okay. We like to think that that's kind of where we excel in relation to other builders. So, whether it be selection process, overcoming some challenges or hurdles, we've got the experience, and like I said, I like to think that's where we excel, is our customer relations.
Yeah.
So.
And that's awesome, because I do think it's intimidating for anyone, even if you're in the real estate field, to go through the building process, right? So if they can sit down with you guys, I think that's world changing when you're trying to build your dream home. So what does that process look like if someone's going to sit down and decide, okay, I want to build? Where do they start with you guys?
So essentially, the first meeting that we like to have is actually on site. So we do allow our clients to kind of look at, hey, this is a home we've got going on right now. Kind of briefly walk through with them, and we point out just little things that specific home has that may be unique to other builds, to kind of help break the ice. We've had our first meetings in the office before, and what we've learned is that when the clients are there and can see the product and walk through, it does create like an informal, introduction to our business. And then moving from there, we will move into the office and, start discussing land, floor plans, all of that good stuff.
Well, that's cool, because I feel like when they can see your work too, it feels more real than just looking at a whole bunch of paper that they don't understand. Correct. So that's really cool. So they can walk through. So what are some custom homes that you have done and challenges that you've had with those?
So the majority of our work is actually in the Richlands area, a little bit into Jacksonville, but we try to stay around Richlands as much as we can. That's where we're from. So,
that's so cool.
When you talk about challenges and different unique things with custom homes, it's, when you build a house, a lot of the time, everything is the same. Yeah. It's just a matter of, we had a home that they really wanted a pantry door going from the garage into the pantry. So it was like a little half door. So when she got home, she could back her car in, open the door, and slide all the groceries right into the pantry.
Hey, that's so convenient.
So, attic storage spaces where we've got subfloor ran throughout the attic for additional storage. So,
that's cool.
It's really just about making it what the client wants. And, like I said, a lot of the homes and projects we've done have been in the Richlands area, and they all definitely have their unique features. I think that,
I think it's so cool that you guys let people have those kind of unique features. Not let them, but take on the project that they're asking for. Because a lot of times, even if you are building a custom home, something that's a little different, people are like,
And it does help that we have the both of us, because Brittany is very good at the customer relations aspect of it. So a lot of the times throughout the project, she will kind of head up communication with the clients.
Yeah.
And then, it'll get relayed over to me, and we'll handle the operation side. And then, it does just kind of help create that smooth communication. But that's also what makes it enjoyable is, I don't think, we've talked about it in the beginning, and I don't think we want to build the same house 10 times. Every house has its different challenges, and we like working around what the client wants to make it work.
Probably makes it more fun than just looking at the same house 10 times every day.
Correct.
So, and do you prefer, or have you encountered, because I guess you don't do the same house, do you have the ability to connect someone with an architect, or do they come with you with plans? How does that part work?
So when we first meet with them, a lot of our clients do have a general idea of what they want. Obviously, if you're in the market for a custom home, you're on Google looking up floor plans, and you're like, I like this piece and this portion. And so Brittany can kind of elaborate on that as far as drawing them up ourselves and then transitioning
So
over.
a lot of times when we meet in the office, they'll have like 4 or 5 floor plans that they found online, and then we'll bring those and we'll kind of like, I want this pantry this size, but I want, this master bedroom, or different places of the house of things. So we'll kind of get an idea, and then we have an architect out of Raleigh, correct? Is Raleigh, that we use, and he will draw it up, kind of give us a like preliminary, is this what you guys like? We'll go over that with the client. If they like it, if we make a few tweaks, and then once they say yes, then we go ahead and send it back to him, and then he draws up everything, and those are finalized plans for all of it.
Crazy how simple you guys make it sound, because even as someone that's been selling real estate, whenever someone's like, I want to build a custom home, can you help me? My thought is, oh God, this is going to take forever.
Where do you start?
I'm like, okay, we'll try.
Yeah.
But then I think they get intimidated and go just to sales, but then they have that problem where they're like, well, I like this master bedroom, but I like that bathroom, and I like, you know what I mean? So it's you mentioning, So if they were to come to you, right? If like, I'm just trying to like paint the picture. So if someone were to contact you, even if they come with like Pinterest photos, that's okay. You can just start there kind of a thing.
Correct. Yep. So a big thing we do is we are pretty informal. In the beginning, we start out emails, but as we get into the design process, we usually transition over to a group. It'll be Brittany, myself, and then the clients. And we recommend that because we are very busy throughout the day. So what it allows us to do in the evening is sit down, review everything, come up with a plan for the next day. And we actually recommend, like, if you have Pinterest photos, if there's a certain front door you want, like, send it so we can start searching for it now.
We kind of set up like a vision board. So it's literally like a board of everything that you like, the colors, the doors, the windows, and that way we can kind of see what you want, and then we can bring it all to light in that photo. So that's really nice.
That's cool. So then you have a plan, you have all these photos, you kind of put it together with an architect, and then how do they pick the land? How does that part work?
So the land is pretty much, I guess that would be the driving force of which direction the build's going to go. So a lot of the majority of the custom homes that we've done or that we have coming up, they already own the land, or it might be family land or something like that. And that kind of does determine, because there are a couple different loan options as well, whether you own the land or not. So if they do not own the land, that's something that we can assist them in finding. And then we also do own a few lots kind of in subdivisions, and those are kind of blank canvases as they sit right now. We'll be moving forward here shortly. But if somebody comes forward and says, hey, I want a custom home, nothing crazy. I want to live in a subdivision, but I want to make it mine.
Those are like ready
to go.
We do
have those lots ready to go.
Okay.
So,
something that I've encountered myself was not knowing whether, they needed to pick the land first or pick the floor plan first. Because I know some are like if you want a ranch, you need to find a wide lot, right?
Correct.
But if you're building up, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. So what do you guys prefer?
So I think that's actually customer driven. We're in talks with a client right now that they've got a very specific, it's a larger house. I want to say it's going to be around 35 to 3,800 square foot. And essentially, we'll be moving forward with having that floor plan drawn up, because we had that conversation, what's your driving force? Is it the land? Or do you want us to find land based on the floor plan? And they were pretty much like, no, we want this floor plan.
Okay, so it's really just communication. So if they talk to you, you can kind of direct them with that.
They want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ranch with a bonus room. That's pretty easy to find a piece of land for them. But if you want a 3,800 square foot, 5-bedroom house, it kind of diminishes your selections. So it's very customer driven. And I really would like to say that we allow the customers to kind of drive the train in a sense, and we just keep them on track.
Which is so refreshing, because I've actually never encountered that, at least. Not that it's unheard of, but you guys meeting with the client and letting them actually kind of be such a big part of building their big dream home. That's crazy. I think that's awesome. So what is the timeline too? Obviously after they pick selections.
Right. So ultimately we stick to a 9-month timeline. So a large portion of that, the build itself, we're looking at around 5 months. So If they come to us with nothing, no land, obviously, that 9-month process would start when we find a location.
Find the piece.
Because
Okay.
that can be a year before the
Yeah.
right piece of land comes up.
That's true.
But once we start the process, we do about 4 months of design
Okay.
meetings, it's dealing with environmental health for septic, and then permitting. It takes time for all of that to come back, and then lining all of our subcontractors up. So once we get started, about 5 months,
Okay.
we do allow during the build, after the framing is complete, they can walk through, because one thing we found is, like, when you're looking at a 2-dimensional blueprint, it looks very different than when it comes to life. So, one big thing that, people like the door swings and, where the light switches are and all of that, we allow them to walk through. And then if they do see any changes they want to make, although it might be, a change order, since they do have the opportunity to adjust things as it comes to life. So
that's cool. Instead of after the fact when the drywall's up and you're like,
right. So, and it's 5-6 months tops, but, a lot of that is driven by how many changes there are, how many times you want to walk through. Like I said, we allow them to be the driving force, and we just kind of keep them on track. So
that's cool.
And that second meeting, when we meet, we give them, a couple forms that ultimately outline this. So if they ever, get a little lost or confused while they're in the process, they have that outlined in there.
To kind of go back and see where they're at.
Yeah, and then if they already own land, we also have a form that says, this is what you need to do to prepare the land. And it gives you all the contact numbers and information that, like, through the county and stuff, because I know before we started this whole process and before I started in real estate, I had no idea about the permitting process, environmental health, none of that. That was foreign to me. So that is nice to have. So you're like, okay, I can just call this number and talk to this person and then take these steps.
Well, and it probably takes a lot off their plate, because in their head they're like, it just is like overwhelming. You don't know where to start. So if you have that in front of them, it's like, calm down. It's all right here. Which
we can help facilitate it too. So, like, we can work with the county, even if they own the land, we can work with the county to help them facilitate. And it's literally just like a piece of paper that the county has you sign that says, this builder is acting on behalf of us.
It's almost like an informal, like, power of attorney.
Just to put in permits.
Just to allow us, because if they do own the land, because that is an option, to own the land throughout the process. There are certain utility companies in the county that won't speak to us. So we've got to set those things up to pretty much speak on their behalf.
Even for, like, temporary power and stuff, you have to get.
So that's one, like temporary power. If we don't own the land, we can have it installed. We can schedule the county inspections, but when it comes time to Duke or Jones-Onslow, a lot of times they have to call it in and set it up.
Which is so crazy, because I'd love for someone to pay my bill, but, but they don't let, just someone to swoop in. So you were talking about setting up the subcontractors and stuff. What is your process that keeps them on track too? So, like, we keep the client on track. What's your with your plan with subcontractors? How does that?
So essentially, all of the subcontractors we use are, they've been around. We have went through. Obviously, when you first start, you go through a few different subcontractors, and you got to figure out. But essentially, through networking and everything else, we found some really good subcontractors, and a lot of those guys have been involved in the new construction. Our framers travel as far as, like, Bolivia and stuff like that to do custom framing. So all of them kind of have their benchmarks, like, hey, when you start digging the footer, let me know, for framing, so I can kind of get you on my schedule. And, once they get in there, we do kind of not hold them to a higher standard, but in the sense they are very self-driven as well. So once they get in there, they know what's expected. They know how to do their job, and they know the timelines that it's expected to be done in. And it is nice, because it does allow us, when we have those good subcontractors, to spend a little bit more time
with the client.
Clients,
so
and we're not out there. And then we do have our system set up for, like, quality control and stuff like that. We've got additional guys on payroll that kind of help manage our jobs, and they'll ride around and
make sure things are on.
Correct. Yep.
It might not always be Kevin on the side. I might show up and kind of do a once over, or our other guys on payroll might come over. So Kevin is on site most of the time. He'll drive the whole job sites every single day, but Sometimes he only gets to them, 3 times
Yeah.
a week or something.
That's
So
still a lot though, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Sometimes only one thing's happening a week.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's cool that you're really there so often.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then I think it sounds like there's open communication all around, like with your subcontractors, with the clients. But what do you guys do to really for the client? Is it email? You said most of the time, or like
it's email in the beginning when we're going through like the loan process and the design process, because we do like in the very beginning to have that paper trail in a sense, because obviously there's a lot of things going on. So it gives us a reference point, or gives us something to look back on. However, once the build starts, we'll kind of transition over to informal text message. And that's kind of like, hey, just so you know, like we'll be setting your trusses tomorrow, or hey, sheetrock goes. So then, a lot of clients like to create their own photo albums of like the process. So it gives them time to go out there and like take the pictures and do whatever. We had one client that they wanted to go through and write, scripture and Bible verses on the framing before the sheetrock went up. So it just gives them the opportunity to do things like that. And we found that when you stick with the email throughout the entire build or job, whatever it may be, it just kind of takes away from that. When you go meet with the client and they tell you something, you're like, put it in the email. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So when you just say like, it's the same concept, hey, shoot me a text. But it's informal, so people feel, a little bit more comfortable. Correct. Yeah.
And he normally does about every 2 weeks. Sometimes 3 weeks, depending on the process, because sometimes there is like a lull in the build, especially like drywall. When that kind of goes up, there's a long kind of wait. But he'll do like a build update, so he'll still do the official email. That way, it's in there and everybody knows. But then we do the informal group text messages, and that's kind of nice.
Kind of like further the relationship.
Yep.
Yep.
And that I think is so different. There are a lot of builders around here that they either don't even allow selections anymore, just with the market that we're in. So I think it's a breath of fresh air that you guys, you can text them. Is I think one. So.
And speaking on the selections part, the way that we found works relatively good with remaining in budget, especially because everything is now more expensive. It's so expensive. Is what we'll do is we'll set like an allotment, and so like, rather than saying like, here's the 5 different floors that you can choose from, what we'll do is say, hey, these are the 2 or 3 brands that we recommend. So that, because we're going to offer a warranty, so we can't just put anything in there, but here's the 2 or 3 brands. And then we allow them to go through and, going back to that vision board you talked about, what kind of flooring do you want? As long as it's within X amount per square foot, that's in budget.
Then it's okay. So basically, when they have the plan, you guys kind of create a, maybe it's not an exact purchase price, like total price, but then, and then in that purchase or total price, they have an allotment for.
So for like cabinetry, they have an allotment. Flooring, they have an allotment. There's a lot of things that, we'll base those prices off of our previous 6 months of work to find like the median price for however many, square feet of flooring or linear foot of baseboard and stuff like that. And it does help dial in pretty much to where we need to be at. And if we get to that point, and if we did come in low on something, or one thing we run into a lot is when, it's kind of like, how much do you want to put in cash wise and how much do you want to finance? So they'll draw down on the financing, and then when it comes time for like cabinetry, they're like, I really wish I'd have put a little bit more money. So it's not like, hey, we can't add the extra cabinetry. It would just go back to those change orders. And then just kind of keeping that open line of communication throughout the entire process. So it's worked out well so far.
It's crazy because I think, even like renovations or something, like it can be really tricky with pricing because you think you want one thing, but something goes in and you're like, wait, I need to upgrade the rest of it.
Seeing that number up front is very scary. You're like, wait a second, let's bring this back. But we have found, speaking remodels, new construction, everybody has literally said like, I wish I'd have just put it into the loan in the beginning. So
I'm pretty bougie, so I just go for it. That's my advice.
Yeah, and that's what we say. Like, if you're gonna build your dream home and you're gonna build this big immaculate custom home, like, you might as well build it how you want and not wait 5 years and be like, man, I really wish I'd have done this when we built it. So.
Well, and realistically, even if it is like a $20,000 difference over 30 years, that loan's
It's not that much,
things.
yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, so I see where that's coming from.
Yeah.
We're talking about bougie. We're actually trying to create kind of like 3 different levels of builds, so that, because we've had some people come to us and be like, okay, I love the allowance idea, however, I'm overwhelmed with options.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have people who say that, then we can, what we're trying to set up right now is, here's this is the options that we have for this, and then they're like, just give me what color I can pick, and then
Like a menu kind of.
Yeah.
so that's we're in the process of doing that right now, to set up those
That's cool.
options.
There are people that are not, like, they don't love design, but they want a brand new home.
They want to, they want to pick the floor plan,
but they don't really want to pick all the light
Correct.
fixtures.
And that's something that Brittany, she's very good at the design, and that's what happens a lot is whenever you do give them all of those options, it is overwhelming. So one thing, if that's if that's kind of what we're feeling from the client, what Brittany will do is kind of put together, we do have like design software that you can kind of like do a kitchen, and like, we might not have all the color options of the cabinets, but you can kind of see, and she does kind of like, hey, I think this is what would fit best. And then we can kind of gauge it if they say like, no, I don't like that at all. Like at least it narrows it down. Or if they say like, hey, I like this side of the kitchen, but not this side. And it gives us somewhere like a common ground to start on. So I think that's helped a lot, because when you do, by the 3rd meeting, you can kind of gauge what they want. And then
you speak to them so frequently, like you get to know who they are.
Oh yeah, 100%. So
learn a lot about people through all that process.
I know. Well, it's like building furniture determines whether you and your husband can stay together.
Yeah. An IKEA package can really put some stress. Yeah. But that's all it is. And it's I always say it's 50% building and 50% like the human interaction is what drives the custom home market,
It's so different because, when usually on the real estate side, if someone's like, oh, I want new construction, it's like, okay, here are the ones that are already built.
Correct. And some people prefer that because it is a faster process.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a matter of
But when you want custom, it's better to do it.
Correct.
Right.
Be a part of it from the beginning.
We have gone into the spec market. However, like our electrician, he always tells me we do our custom specs. So our spec
he's like, there's
really
nothing spec about this.
But we're enjoying that. I don't think that we ever want to build just like the
same
bottom, of the barrel. In a sense, it sounds terrible because I don't think that any is bottom of the barrel. It's still a nice house, but we want to do the upgrades. We like to do certain things, or kind of do the super high ceilings,
And that's the one we had a spec home that we just went under contract with, and we actually sat down with those clients yesterday. So even though it was a home that was put on the market, we still brought them into the office and was like, these are the current selections that we intend on finishing this house out with. Like, are you guys, they did end up tweaking some of the cabinetry in the laundry room. However, a lot of the material in that house, like she said, it's our custom spec, was already upgraded. So when they came in, it was like already the upgraded trim and, the soft close cabinetry with full extension, 42. It was pretty upgraded. So when they walked out, they were like, well, there's really not a lot left to upgrade. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they were able to have some input on like the countertops, what kind they wanted, cabinetry and stuff like that. So even if we do put something on the market and it goes under contract, like they're going to be
still room for
correct.
Yeah, as long as the material hasn't been ordered yet, and it's not like a special order to where it takes extended amount of weeks, then we can typically have those changes for them if they get in before drywall. So if they're in the framing phase, then we can normally,
because there are like, once you place your electrical outlets and everything, like you can't change your cabinetry because it's laid out in accordance with the electrical code and stuff. So there are like restrictions. However, we do, just the color options. I know that's huge because we don't do the flat paint or anything. We do eggshell or satin finish depending on the brand of the paint. And
it's the little things that they really add up because even if you buy a new construction house, like ours was not eggshell, the
probably flat.
Paint, all over
throughout.
But then it's like if you buy a new construction house, like you really now want to invest in painting all of it.
Right, and that's what we always tell people, like throughout the the build. Like if there is anything you want to do, like let us help you with it, because once you move in, it'll be 6 months down the road and you're like, well, I never painted like I said I was going to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's closet systems, paint, all that good stuff. Those are all things that we're like, hey, just let us help you with it and get it done.
Really is more convenient beforehand anyway.
Yeah.
So, and with kids, like with flat paint, they run down the halls and they like run their fingers. So it's like you have literally, but with
You
the
can tell which
eggshell
kid it is
or
based on
set-
like the height
the
of
height of the
the.
wall.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. Yes, it was.
Always. It's like, I know because it's your height. So if there was anything that you wanted people to know, like their first impression of you, right? Like of your building company out in the wild, I guess. What would the first impression like you want people to think of you guys?
I would say just circling back and simply saying like the customer relation is the most important thing to us. And, half of what we do is building, like I said, and the other half is, the customer relations. And, you know, we're trying to build a custom home company that, is built on that. And, we don't want to be known as like just another builder. We're really trying to set ourselves apart and
High quality.
draw that clientele in.
The balance between the high quality and like the level of communication, I think, is really refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. That's something that I hope that we can get out there for you guys.
Yeah.
So, but we do have, like, I know there have been a few agents at National Realty Group that have clients that are interested in building. So I think this will be helpful to them, and hopefully anyone else that listens to be able to. So you said email is the best way to get up with you guys, or?
Yep. So our email is management.tlhi@gmail.com, and that's the best way to get set up with us. Correct. And like I said, if they reach out informally or if an agent reaches out, they're more than welcome to kind of go, even if the house is under contract, they can kind of take a walk through and, we can meet them out there and just have an informal discussion on what they want.
Yeah, and if they decide like, hey, this is too much, we don't want to do this, they're not forced to come into an office or something. It's just kind of like they can drive their own vehicle and not feel uncomfortable. So I think that would help to kind of break the ice if they feel uncomfortable.
Well, it's cool to see you guys in the build itself. I think it's just crazy because normally you go to these scary offices and you have to like sit behind a desk and like just do paperwork. But this is like, no, I'm seeing what you guys are doing. So that's very different.
Yeah, and our custom home clients, like they've allowed us to come in their houses and show and walk through their houses, which has been amazing.
We actually had one client that 4 months after they moved in, we had another client that was like very on the fence of what floor plan they wanted. So we reached out and they actually allowed us to come back into the home like 4 or 5 months later with another client to walk through and just say like, this is their layout. Obviously, with our custom homes, one thing we do as well is we allow the clients to purchase their own plans. So if you own those plans, nobody else can ever build that same exact house unless they obviously pay to have it drawn up. So, even though they're walking through the home, like it would still have some tweaks and like, hey, I want a breakfast nook. But I like to think that, kind of speaks on the relationships we build with the clients to allow us to come back into the house 5 months after we're done.
It must have been cool to see it with furniture and stuff.
It was
very cool. Especially when you're building it and you're there every day, you don't notice it. And then when you step away and you come back, you're like, wow, this is nice. So it's good to have those experiences.
Well, thank you guys for sitting with us. Is there anything else that you want to add or want to put out there?
No, I really appreciate you guys having us, and we look forward to hopefully working with you guys more in the future. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to answer them.